Hi! I have a cold. I apologise, I'm very nasally and it's annoying, but what I wanted to do is talk about E3, and I don't want to sit there and talk about the games, the positives and the negatives, because there's a million videos like that, but I want to talk about a nugget that was dropped during its 9 hours of random conference information, and there's a 4 seconds piece of nugget dropped by Phil Spencer from Xbox, and it made me go, yes, this is where I want to see investments in.
Our experts in Microsoft Research are developing the future of gaming AI. So the worlds and characters we enjoy will be even more rich and more immersive.
So that's it. Phil drops in the working on AI, and it's made me realise that that is the weakest thing in gaming at the moment. So let's just jump back to 1998. I'm a young boy with my PlayStation 1 and I've got my hands on Gran Turismo, and I remember while playing that game I stood back and says to my dad, look at these graphics, at this point you cannot tell the difference between real life and the computer game graphics. And I know that's very laughable now because you're looking at it and going, that looks nothing like real life. But the point is I could potentially do the same right now. What we've got right now, let's just take Forza for instance. You look at it and go, oh, that's pretty much close to real graphics, real life. And yes, it is. But maybe 10 years from now, gaming will get that much more better. We'll look at this and laugh at that and go, that was nothing like it. And the point is, your brain does a very, very good job of accepting the graphics that you're given and going, this is pretty damn fine. And you don't notice how bad it is until the next best thing comes along. So what they provide you at the time is always acceptable to me. I'm like, yes, this is great, and I can't see how you can get any better, but magically they do. And there's a few things what gaming needs to do to trick your brain to make it enjoyable. Now, don't get me wrong, this isn't perfect for every single game, but majority of games want to just immerse you into that world. And they're the games I enjoy the most, where I play it for so long, next minute I forget I even exist in this real life, I'm in that world. And to do so, there are several different factors that help to tell that tale. One of them being graphics, but don't get me wrong, graphics is not all. I've been immersed into pixelated games before, but graphics could sell you a real world, make you go, I feel it's living and breathing, and I care for this character because the character model's realistic, so her tiny little emotions and crinkles in her face, and she looks upset, so that gives me emotion and I feel for that character, don't want them to die. It all builds on top of it. And the other things is the actual physics of the game. Can you interact with the world and how well it actually interacts back with you? That also sells it, because back in the day we used to have very basic games. You can only click on things that we've allowed you to click, but then fast forward to nowadays where you can interact with things and buildings will collapse and this barrel will explode, which will set a fire, which will then spark off into the actual forest. So there is many different things that have been added onto it. And the third thing is actually how detailed that world is. Originally we used to have very basic boxed games. They were square. You could tell it was a computer game just because nothing in real life is as straight as what all these games portray it is. But now with leaning more to realism, where walls are no longer straight, they're crumbly, they have holes in them, they have dirt and dust and decay, and on the actual floor it's just not a simple floor. There's things on there like cans and rubbish and bricks and random bits of mortar that fell out of the wall, and they also build onto selling this entire world. So you get all these parts and you put them into a nice little mixing bowl and you churn them out and you go, there you go, there's a realistic looking game. And most time you accept it and go, this is great. But while I'm eating this delicious meal, every so often I'm finding a hair and I'm like, oh, that's not very nice, I wish that wasn't there. And what that hair is the AI. Now what can just break you out of immersion straight away is things, Bethesda's great for doing it, and it is things like Skyrim. The characters are so wooden, the AI is so wooden that they sell you this rich world, and I play it, and then these wooden robots come out and interact with you by just slowly looking at you, and the camera will just zoom into their face and then back out again, and I'm like, I'm out of the immersion. And games have been getting better. You get a few odd games where you could potentially throw down a bunch of grenades on the floor and the characters will not react to them until they explode. And they've realised that's bad and started to build on that now, so they understand threat levels around them. If you throw a Molotov onto the grass and it burns, the fire will come through the forest, so they flee. So I'm thinking about Far Cry. And many other games have got better for it. But still, the AI is lacking. Now, it can consist of a character just queuing up to be killed. Many games do that, and I understand that if you did go with super realism, it would become incredibly hard, and fair enough, that may be not what they're after. But the point is, the AI is definitely the weakest part of gaming, and I feel like how fast the sound design's coming along, the graphics, the physics, all these elements to games are improving year on year on year, and I feel like the AI is the only thing that just kind of creeps along baby steps and just gets a little bit better. Now what I want to do is I want to live in this world where AI's got to the point where when I play the game it will be vastly different to yours because I've done something slightly different. And don't get me wrong, there's games that will go off into different trees. You've done this decision, so you get a different set of scenarios. They've existed, they're great. But I want the actual characters themselves not always to spit out the same piece of information. I would like them to have a catalogue of things they could say to us or ask us to do. So when you talk to somebody, you'll go, oh, this character did this, and like, really? Mine didn't do that. And that would make the world so much more immersive that I'm getting a different experience to everybody else. And the other thing as well is just simple things where characters bump into shit. They don't understand what they are, and that is getting better. Characters are like, okay, I've hit something, I need to climb over it. But that's the thing, they can spend all this time making the actual character models look great, and even the actual motion of how the characters walk look great, but then they can instantly just snap into, I'm walking, and then they're attached to something, they're glued to it, and they'll climb up it, and all these kind of things break away from the immersion. So I think AI is going to be able to help with the way they actually decide how to interact with the world, but mainly how they interact with me. Now, we could even push this envelope a little bit further and just think about how cool it would actually be if they could respond to how we actually speak. So don't necessarily have a option where they'll go, shall we kill this entire village? Option A, yes. Option B, no. Let us, because there's a lot of times I've played games I'm like, I need a middle ground. I don't want a yes or no. So I want the actual AI to be able to react with what I want to actually pump into it. Now, I know that's pushing it down the line, and the problem is, would our hardware be able to deal with it? Probably not. Now, Phil Spencer, when he spoke a little bit more about this AI, was just talking about the Azure servers, the cloud computing. And the thing is, this is in a big, giant data center somewhere with Microsoft. And they've got the computing power to do all this machine learning and stuff like that. Which means it won't fit in your living room. And to achieve that potentially means a always on console, which a lot of people are super scared of. But I'm pretty damn used to always having my console connected to the internet. A lot of the time I'll play online, which means I have to be connected. So if they got to the point where they made these games and they're like, we've made the game, but it runs a lot better if you connect it to these Azure servers. All the computing power will be done pretty much like what they've said with Crackdown. Crackdown, they've said, your computer can run and do all this destruction, but when it's connected to these Azure servers, the destruction, the calculations we can do is vastly superior to what your console can do, and it makes it more enjoyable because, for one, we can have 1,000 particles all smashing and reacting on the floor instead of your console trying to do it and going, I've run out of frames, I cannot produce this amount of computing power. So I don't fully know where I'm going with this rant, but what I wanted to do is just make people to just take a second, look into gaming and go, yes, we have progressed, it is getting better, it's far more enjoyable with all this extra stuff that they're adding on there, but we are lacking in an area. It is AI, and I want to see more companies going, this is where we need to start pouring funding. Microsoft set it, they've said they're going to do it. It's potentially something that could be a little console war winner for them. If they could turn around and go, this game runs better on Xbox than PlayStation because we have better AI, here's an option, and then just show you some footage where the characters are just be normal computer game characters, but a character that's then connected to the Azure servers is so much lifelike and reacts better to what you're actually asking it, and you could potentially even type in or speak in what you want that AI to do, and it will actually listen to it like it does when you speak to Alexa. You ask it a question, it goes, okay, right, I think that's what you wanted me to do. That kind of stuff. Now, some people will just pull back from that and be like, oh, we've tried that on Connect, we've had it on Mass Effect where we shout, do this, attack that, and it's Roper. And yes, it is, and that's the point. I would enjoy doing it if it wasn't a horrible mess. So what I want them to do is make AI not a horrible mess. We're at that point now where we can speak to a lot of objects in the house, we can speak to our phones, we can speak to Alexa, and they're okay. When you see them on QVC or the adverts and whatever it is, they sell them like they're fantastic, and we've all interacted with them, and they're okay at best. Don't get me wrong, I like saying, Alexa, play this, and it works, but that's because I'm giving her basic commands. Try and give her something complex, she melts down. But what I want to see is gaming get in front, because they are the front runners with a lot of technology. They will push the envelope before another area in the world does, and I want them to push that AI, that interaction with that game, and then others can copy. You'll see everybody going, we're going to steal this and put this into our devices, but the gaming, be the people that get there first, make my interactions with the game more human, make me more immersed into them games, and I think that's where we need to be going. So there you go, you may tune into someone else's channel that's watched 9 hours and they've condensed it into a 15-minute rant. I've done the opposite. I've taken 4 seconds of the E3 conference and stretched it out to 12 minutes apparently. So yes, it's a bit of an all over the place random thing, but I just think that we need to step it up now on AI, and I hope Microsoft's going to be doing it, and I also hope it's just not a tidbit that they're thrown out and going, we're doing better AI, and they kind of just do a bit better AI. Pump that money into it. You've got the servers, you've got the people. If anyone can do it, it's Microsoft, and I want to see that advancement in AI. Right, that's me done. I'm going to go and have a lemon sip. Thank you very much for watching, guys. Cheers. Bye.